I do with women, you know. I use my charm, use my good looks. I guess you know what comes across my mind. Murder.
He didn't look like a monster. Clean smile. Confident posture. Joker tattoos covering his face like comic book chaos brought into real life. To strangers, Wade Wilson looked more like a social media personality than someone connected to one of Florida's most disturbing criminal cases. But in October 2019, 2 women lost their lives within hours of meeting him. Police would later describe a timeline so fast, so unpredictable, that investigators struggled to understand how an ordinary night turned into a tragedy that shocked an entire community. Who was Wade Wilson before headlines called him the Deadpool Killer? Was he a calculated predator, or a man spiraling out of control long before anyone noticed? Tonight, we open the file, step by step, following verified reports, court records, and documented events to understand what really happened. This is the brutal files. Before the headlines, Wade Stephen Wilson was just another young man trying to build a life in Florida. Born in 1994, Wilson was adopted shortly after birth and raised in a stable household in Lee County, Florida. According to publicly reported background information discussed during court proceedings, his adoptive parents provided structure and support throughout his childhood. Friends from earlier years described him as energetic and social, someone who enjoyed attention and connection. There was nothing outwardly dramatic about his early life that suggested the future accusations he would face. Like many teenagers, Wilson struggled with identity and direction. Reports later reference periods of instability, including difficulties maintaining steady employment and relationships. Over time, he developed a reputation among acquaintances for impulsive behavior and risky decision-making. His appearance became part of his identity. Wilson covered much of his face and body with tattoos, including designs inspired by comic book villains and chaotic imagery. The tattoos earned him attention online and in public spaces, contributing to the nickname that media outlets would later amplify. But tattoos alone don't tell a story. Behind them, investigators would later attempt to understand a pattern of behavior that appeared to escalate in the years leading up to 2019. October 6, 2019, began like an ordinary night in Cape Coral, Florida. According to police affidavits and court testimony, Wilson spent the evening socializing and meeting new people. Witness statements indicated he had been moving between locations, interacting casually with strangers, something not unusual for nightlife environments. That night, he met 35-year-old Christine Melton. Melton, described by friends as kind and outgoing, reportedly offered Wilson a ride. Surveillance footage and phone records later helped investigators piece together their movements. The two went back to her residence, where events would soon take a tragic turn. Authorities later stated that Melton was killed inside her home. Investigators relied on forensic evidence and Wilson's own statements during questioning to reconstruct what happened. Within hours, Wilson left the residence driving Melton's vehicle. What followed would become one of the most disturbing parts of the case, not only because of what happened, but because of how quickly events escalated afterward. After leaving the first crime scene, Wilson encountered 43-year-old Diane Ruiz. Ruiz was a mother and a well-known member of her community. Reports indicate she was last seen walking in the area when Wilson approached her. According to law enforcement findings presented later in court, Ruiz entered the vehicle willingly, unaware of the danger investigators believed she was facing. The timeline becomes critical here. Authorities allege that Ruiz was attacked inside the vehicle. Evidence presented during legal proceedings suggested she attempted to escape, showing signs of resistance. Investigators later stated that Wilson drove for miles before abandoning the vehicle. Ruiz's body was later discovered after a search effort began when she was reported missing. For investigators, the proximity of the two incidents, occurring within the same night, raised urgent questions about motive, mental state, and intent. The case quickly moved from a local investigation to national headlines. Law enforcement response intensified rapidly once connections between the two cases emerged. Detectives traced Melton's stolen vehicle using witness sightings and surveillance footage. Within a short period, officers located Wilson at a nearby residence. Police reports state that Wilson was taken into custody without a prolonged confrontation. During questioning, investigators documented statements that became central to the prosecution's case. Portions of these interviews were later referenced during court hearings, though legal teams debated interpretation and context. Authorities also collected forensic evidence, including DNA analysis and physical items recovered from locations tied to the timeline. For detectives, the evidence formed what they described as a continuous chain linking the suspect to both incidents. But outside the courtroom, public attention focused on something else entirely: Wilson's appearance. As mugshots circulated online, the case exploded across social media. Wilson's facial tattoos led many outlets and internet users to label him the Deadpool Killer, referencing similarities people drew between his appearance and comic book imagery. The nickname spread rapidly, but legal experts often warn that sensational labels can influence public perception before trials even begin. True crime audiences debated the psychology behind the case, while others criticized how quickly internet culture turned tragedy into viral content. Behind every headline, however, were real victims and grieving families navigating unimaginable loss. Family members of both women spoke publicly about remembering Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz for their lives, not for the circumstances of their deaths. Their statements shifted attention back to what mattered most: human impact. Court documents revealed the complexity of building a legal case. Prosecutors relied heavily on forensic timelines, witness testimony, and digital evidence. Phone activity, location data, and surveillance recordings helped reconstruct Wilson's movements hour by hour. Defense attorneys, meanwhile, examined questions surrounding mental health history and intent, common areas of focus in serious criminal trials. Legal proceedings stretched over years, with hearings addressing evidence admissibility, procedural matters, and jury considerations. Cases involving multiple victims often require extensive preparation, and this one proved no different. Each hearing added new details while reinforcing the importance of verified facts rather than speculation. When proceedings advanced, the courtroom became the center of national attention. Observers noted the contrast between Wilson's calm courtroom demeanor and the severity of the accusations against him. Prosecutors presented their narrative based on evidence collected during the investigation, arguing that the timeline demonstrated deliberate actions. Defense teams emphasized legal protections, reminding jurors that every defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt, a cornerstone of the justice system. Witnesses included investigators, forensic specialists, and individuals connected to the timeline of events. For families watching, the process was emotionally exhausting. Trials often require revisiting painful details repeatedly, extending grief over months or even years. The case highlighted a growing trend in modern true crime: the intersection between criminal justice and internet storytelling. Online discussions ranged from serious analysis to sensational speculation. Experts frequently caution that misinformation can spread quickly when complex cases become viral topics. Responsible reporting relies on confirmed records, court findings, and verified statements rather than rumors. For channels covering true crime, maintaining accuracy isn't just ethical, it's essential. Because behind every case are real people whose stories deserve careful handling. One of the most important aspects often overlooked in high-profile cases is the broader human context. Friends described Christine Melton as compassionate and welcoming. Diane Ruiz was remembered as a devoted mother whose absence left a lasting void. Community vigils brought strangers together, transforming grief into collective remembrance. These moments remind us that true crime stories are not entertainment alone, they are reflections of real lives interrupted. Many experts emphasize that focusing on victims rather than perpetrators helps maintain empathy and respect within storytelling. While courts determine legal responsibility, psychologists often study behavioral patterns to understand warning signs that may appear before violent incidents. Impulsivity, unstable relationships, substance abuse history, and escalating risk-taking behaviors are frequently examined in similar cases. However, specialists caution against simplifying complex human behavior into single explanations. Every case involves unique circumstances. Understanding does not excuse actions, but it helps society learn prevention lessons. True crime stories resonate because they challenge assumptions about danger. People expect threats to look obvious. Yet many high-profile cases involve individuals who initially appeared ordinary. This contrast creates fear and fascination. It forces communities to ask difficult questions. How well do we really know strangers? What warning signs go unnoticed? And how can tragedies be prevented? Years after the events of 2019, the case continues to be discussed in legal analysis and true crime media. For families, however, time moves differently. Healing becomes a lifelong process rather than a closing chapter. Community members established memorials and shared stories celebrating the victims' lives, ensuring they would be remembered for who they were, not just what happened. The story of Wade Wilson is not just about a criminal investigation. It's about how quickly ordinary moments can change forever. It's about the responsibility of storytelling, choosing facts over rumors, empathy over sensationalism. And most importantly, it's about remembering the people at the center of the tragedy. Because behind every case file is a human story that deserves dignity. As investigators closed one chapter, communities were left asking questions that may never fully be answered. How does someone reach a breaking point unnoticed? Could anything have changed the outcome? And what lessons should we carry forward? The files may close in courtrooms, but the impact remains. This has been the Brutal Files.